Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this edition of SAG-AFTRA at Home. Just a reminder that you can find more information on the COVID-19 Relief Fund by scrolling down to the comment section below. I am so excited today to be welcoming Da'Vine Joy Randolph, one of the stars of High Fidelity. I just want to start by talking about the fact that Charisse is a character who is so fearless on the surface, so unafraid to express herself, and yet when it comes to her pursuit in terms of her music career, there's this vulnerability and this reluctance to share that side of her, and we see it in these small moments throughout the course of season one where the camera lingers on her just for a few seconds and we get the sense that there's something lingering there. Can you talk about playing those moments? They're so subtle, but they communicate so much. I imagine that's a challenge.
First of all, thank you. I think for me, I often think of Erykah Badu, when she says, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my SHIT. So it's honestly something that I know that all artists go through at some point in stage, and then it comes back. And, and that is, to do what we do, we have to have an extreme level of tenacity and true dedication. You have to love the work, and you have to love the process, and you have to love the art for art's sake. What comes along with it, kudos, but that can't be your driving force, because the resilience that it takes to stay in this against all the odds, and how then when you do reach a certain point, just like that, it can be taken away from you as if it never happened. You really do have to love it. And so in that, I think it just speaks to a really true place of an artist of like, we have to be vulnerable and put ourselves out there in a way where it's both very exciting. We have to have a certain level of command and integrity to present ourselves to the world. But there is always that small or large fear deep inside of us that is, I love this, I get this, but will the powers that be get it? And for me, it's more important for my people to get it. My people being women, my people being people of color, Black women, Black people, other artists. For me, that is first and foremost. And I'm very specific in the moments and just the overall arc of the character that it speaks to that. So that way, it then, whatever accolades you get, ironically, I find you get more accolades, because when you can't service everyone, but if you make it, when it comes from a true place, when you're just trying to service the art, I find you will reach more people that way than if you're trying to target, you know what I mean, from a certain angle. And so ultimately, when you just do it in which when the artist is willing to be truly vulnerable in every sense, and there's also strength in vulnerability. I think, as an artist, when you are able to just stand for what you believe in, that's extremely vulnerable. But the exterior may look strong and brazen and confident and courageous and all these things. Inside, the person can still very much so feel like, I don't know, but I gotta try something, So I think in an interesting way, what's nice about that complexity is that we actually operate, all people do, but I know from an artist perspective, we operate from both of those places. We have to be bold enough to put ourselves out there. And then there's that immediate moment of, this may not hit.
And to know that you have to, especially in the music industry, there's this packaging that you don't even have control over at times, or a way that people are going to see you.
Yes.
And Charisse is pitching herself to a potential manager at one point. She's like, I sing punk and soul and it's high concept. And he
Yeah.
doesn't know what to make of her.
Yes.
And I imagine for so many performers that will be listening to this, that's something that they grapple with is
Absolutely. It absolutely happens in music. There's so many artists that how we were introduced to them in the world, we think that's it. And then later in their career, or if they have like some jam session, or, you know what I mean, something goes viral that you just catch them in the like privacy of their own home, you hear this whole other sound and you're like, whoa. It's like the age old thing, right? When you get discovered and people are like, where did you come from? And it's like, no, I've been doing this for X amount, over a decade, whatever, X amount of years. So similarly, we are as artists, and the same thing of like, you know, my training was predominantly classically based material, and dramatic for sure. Yet ironically, what pays most of my bills is comedy. Do you know what I mean? So I think I say that to say what you should not shy away from. And what I really like about Charisse is that she's eclectic and versatile, and that she does her research, she's aware, she doesn't limit herself even to the things that you feel as though the viewer, the consumer, or, you know, said exec, whatever it is, feels as though you should be doing because of the color of your skin or the size or whatever vibe or stereotype or trope that you give off. That is something that I've always been adamant about, that I will not get stuck in a stereotype. And even if I am playing something that could easily go in that way, I am very conscious in that I will not let that be the determining factor. So what I was so attracted to was, yes, she is aware and enjoys hip hop, R&B, rap, whatever, what have you, gospel, Motown, but then she's talking about Blondie, you know what I mean? Or she's talking about these foreign, like there's a moment in the season where they're at the bar and Simon is like, so like, okay, talk to me about it. And I'm like, you wouldn't understand. They're predominantly French. I love that line. The idea that this girl that's like, yo, and and just feel, and it comes from this place. And some of her main inspiration is French singers, you know what I mean? International music. Which you wouldn't necessarily expect, but that's the reality of the world today. That's crazy saying today. That made me think of so many things, obviously, but before all this happened, and still, but that's like, that's what's real. That's what's authentic. That's what's tangible. We have complexities to ourselves. We're not just one dimensional. And I always encourage, and I strive for in my work as well, do not be one dimensional. I don't care if that's what it says on the paper, figure it out. If you are a trash collector, you are the best trash collector that they've ever had. Do you know what I mean? And I really take that to heart. You know what I mean? Whether I've played a secretary or a prison inmate, there is a level of integrity and pride, no matter what, that I set my character up to win, and I root for my character. Whether they then become villainous or they're loud or they're, you know what I mean? Like, where people are like, oh my gosh, Charisse. And it's like, yeah, but you have to come from a place of having that full zeal of love and true passion. What this young lady has is she's passionate and she's in great pursuit for trying to figure it out. And in order to be that passionate, you wear your emotions on your sleeve. You know what I mean? It's very on the surface, but at the same time, I think that's what makes for really great art and expression. And that's a really beautiful thing that she has that I wish more people could have.
Well, that really comes through with her wanting the electric guitar.
Yeah.
And what that symbolizes. If I talk too much about it, I'll start to cry. But the final scene of season 1, where she opens the gift that she's been given, the guitar, and she's first of all, that scene is so incredible. But then she starts to play it, and she starts to sing a Stevie Wonder song, and such a subtle moment. It's not overly emotional or overly dramatic, but it just gives us enough to know, wow, we have so much to learn about this person, and it's incredible to imagine where this is going to go. But if you could speak to that particular scene at the end, or the two scenes towards the end involving that guitar.
Yeah, it's ironic. We didn't know where we were going to go with Cherise necessarily in regards to the ending. When I had auditioned, they had said, like, you know, it'd be great if this character can sing. And I was like, okay, well, we'll see what happens. And the ongoing debate was, when you meet Cherise, how far along is she in her artistry? Do you know what I mean? Like, does she have a band? Is she signed? Do we hear her even sing at all? And so we really like this idea of, you know, and also with the desire and hope that this show can take on as long of a life as possible, we felt as though we might be shooting ourselves in the foot if we have her be quite further along. Only because, you know, then what? She gets signed, she goes on tour, so she now FaceTiming everyone. Do you know what I mean? Like, so we thought about that. And then also, we like this idea of, and through my perspective of the character, and, you know, the Rob and Simon character may think differently, is she's taking her time due to the respect that she has. And I think about it, it's a very daunting task, because in the music industry specifically, you kind of do have to like pick a genre. And most musicians have multiple loves. Most people don't just stay in one lane only. That's very difficult. And so what's beautiful is throughout the series, you're seeing those, you know, heated conversations. That's school for her. You know what I mean? That's her education. And she's like, okay, great. So then I like that aspect of that person. That's a good point. Don't want that part, but I like that part. She's really coming together with understanding who she is. We all know and experience as people in the entertainment industry a great deal of rejection, a great deal of no's. And then sometimes yeses happen. And I know we all in some way, shape, or form are constantly like, do I give up? Like, is this too much? Like, you know, and for her, I believe she has a very deep well of stamina and pursuit. But what's so profound about the first part of that scene is that, and we know this as artists, she is supported. To be like, she was almost like, you know, it's almost like Great Expectations. Like, she gets an anonymous benefactor, right? Where it's like, wow, someone believes in what I did. And, you know, and I even sometimes in rewatching it, I don't know if she knows exactly who did it. I think she knows it's probably, because also in my mind, I've envisioned because you don't physically see that scene prior, but in my mind, she's told everyone. You know, I don't see why Cherise would just be like, keep the little secret and just tell Simon. But technically, Simon is the one who tells Rob about it. So it's also this beautiful thing of like, wow, someone cares about me and someone believes in me enough to make a purchase with their own money to support my talent and my gift. And I think when she opens that box of the guitar box, all of that floods over her. And that it's overwhelming of the amount of gratitude. And that is exactly the boost that she needs, where it could possibly been, you know, this whole series that you've seen, maybe in that moment she was like, maybe I shouldn't do this. You know what I mean? Like, I literally work in a music store. If someone was going to find me here, like, you know, like, there's been enough rejection. These two little brats are having full blown, you know what I mean, shows. What do they know about music, which they do to a certain extent, but how I imagined it was in that moment prior, right before, leading up into that moment, she had decided to quit. And that then comes. And it's almost like an affirmation from the higher power that, no, 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 keep going. And so it's almost as if, you know, she said in a prayer, you know what I mean? Of like, give me a sign if this is what I'm supposed to keep doing. As the actor, that's how I envision that moment. And that when she gets that, it's the acknowledgement that that is the moment. And then the whole part in playing, it was funny because my character has these really long, fun nails that are all these different designs. Every episode, I did a different design, and that was really fun to create as part of who she is. And so I had these nails, and it was kind of a last minute choice to have me perform. And so I was like, guys, I have these nails, like, so I think I had a week to learn the song, like to learn to play the song. I am a classically trained opera singer, so I went to music school. So I definitely can play the guitar, but not, you know what I mean, not at that level. It was definitely a reacquaintance. And so I was like, well, guys, my long nails, it'll hit the other strings, like it won't sound as clean. And they were like, no, that's perfect. And I was like, oh, okay. And then it was very clear that they were like, do not sing full out and don't, you know, just almost as if you're just like, it's you having this private moment of like just tinkering and almost like through her ear being able to like figure out, is it that chord, this, you know, but that it's the first sign of her connection with what she does. And it was really nice. It was really nice that it panned out that way. I was really excited because there was a possibility that it was going to be almost like a Star is Born moment, that the finale was going to be, you know, everyone's like, she's not doing anything, blah, blah, blah. And then it was going to be, you know, Rob and Simon are like, she's having a show, and show up to the show, and it's just like rock out, like,
It happened in the
like,
film.
yeah. And we were just kind of like, let's let it go more places. Let's have more places and opportunities. Because I was like, wouldn't it be interesting if we see truly an artist's journey? Because this is the only art. We talk about music through theory, but wouldn't it be really unique to see really truly an artist's process? And I feel like we don't often, I mean, I could be wrong, I don't see everything, but we don't get a chance to see that as frequently of an artist's process. So yeah, that's how it all kind of came together.
We really get to see the very distinct hustle that artists have in New York City, in other parts of the world too, but it's very specific in New York, particularly the communities we're showing in Brooklyn. I think it's no accident that we see her working coat check in addition to the record store not long before we see that beautiful moment. So again, really, really authentic. But you mentioned her nails, and she does have such a distinct style. The look overall is so incredible and so rich. But I understand that you came so prepared with lookbooks and had done so much research.
So we didn't, off of what I first read, I was like, okay, she's this. And being that she's born and raised, she's the only, like, you know, local. They're all, you know, people who have transferred or whatever to this area. I thought it was going to be this very, you know, very urban Brooklyn look. And it is. But what was a nice, interesting twist was like, but let's have it where it's not like designer, where we see she's thrifting, where because she's an artist, she has fun with her clothes. She rips stuff up. She'll take, you know, she'll go thrifting and take two jackets and cut off the sleeve. And so like there was things where we were like, we want to make it look like she made these things or altered her clothes in some way, or, you know, dyed her overalls. And so I'm really into fashion, but just in general, that is a big way for me into my character. I'm a visual person. So seeing what they look like, and maybe too because of theater, because in theater you will have mock costumes, especially if you're doing a period piece or something that's restricting. You'll have a version of what you're going to wear in rehearsals, and so that was really key. So yeah, what I did was I just started pulling a whole bunch of pictures of inspiration of either, you know, fashion people that I really admire or felt, you know, felt as though it fit for that. I also pulled from individual people that I know. This guy by the name of Brooklyn Jones, who's from that area, and that was huge in like the urban hip hop era, especially through clothing, and just being like, okay, would this work? And it's like, yeah, but freak it this way. You know what I mean? Like the sense of like personal style, or like tucking your laces for these sneakers, or cuff your pants for this, or pull up one leg, or, you know, tatter the shirt, in a way of having that authenticity. The cool thing is that straight across the board, and I think Zoe was a huge component in this, as an EP, that it was like, it had to be authentically New York. We were going to film in Los Angeles for this New York show, and it was very important to her, and I'm glad that we made that change, because it makes a world of a difference. Just to filming in New York, especially outdoor, the vibe of filming on location in New York versus LA is two totally different things. It's the summer. You got the people across the street watching. They'll pull out their lawn chairs. Like, there's such a sense of community that is just different than LA is. That was really dope and cool. And so that authenticity, from, you know, the hair to the nails to the clothes to the foot, you know what I mean, the foot gear, it was all very calculated and specific, down to laces, literally. Like it was very, because she's representing another form of Brooklyn, the same way that Simon is, and the same way that Zoe's character, Rob, is, but that we were very specific of, we do not want to lean into full-blown stereotypes, that it will be an opportunity to show a much more well-rounded eclectic, because Brooklyn today, I mean, it's much more eclectic. It's not, I mean, even now with rappers wearing fitted jeans and, you know what I mean? Like, and then you see like Run DMC in this collision with that and Aerosmith. So hip hop and rock and roll has always, you know, been forging together and borrowing one from the other. So it reflects that now. So we wanted to make sure that it reflected that as well.
Especially these areas you're showing, like Crown Heights and Bed-Stuy, the history, yeah, the richness of the culture, how incredibly that comes to life and is its own character. Mm-hmm. But speaking to you coming with these ideas of costumes, and Colleen Atwood hearing you and incorporating that, and I want to bring up the fact that something you said earlier about, if I'm going to play a stereotype, I'm going to show it in a much richer, deeper way. And we saw that. The biggest example I can think of is your role on Empire as Pound Cake. Mm-hmm. But what happens, because it's such a huge discussion at the moment and so many people will encounter this, what happens when you're not heard and someone, you know, you come to someone prepared with, as you said, all of this research and perhaps it's not incorporated and you're not giving it the ways that
yeah, totally. I was very much so blessed to encounter Colleen, number one, first and foremost, having so many huge accolades in the industry. We were all very blessed to have her. Secondly, to have her be open to discussion at someone of her level of prestige and legacy, that she wasn't tripping, you know what I mean? And was like, sure. And what about this? And we played off of each other in a really nice way. That is rare. I'm not even going to front with you. The only time I don't want to say only, but the other time that I have equally encountered that was Ruth Carter for Dolomite, that it was a true collaboration. Everything we made custom, whether it was, you know, based off of motifs during that time period, everything was custom. So we were in a constant communication. So I'm being honest that in regards to wardrobe, that is rare. And that's okay. It's not okay when it's in the script. So what I've always told people, and it's something that I do, and it's a little secret, and now everyone may know, including the directors, but whatever, is sometimes you have to show them instead of talk about it. Because sometimes, especially if you're not quote unquote in a position of power, if you're not the lead, if you're not number 2 or 1 on the call sheet, whatever, what have you, sometimes you have to, I've found it's been most effective, even when they give you a note, that when they give you the note, if the note is like, okay, can you do it a little more sassy or whatever, right? Then I'm like, okay, I'm going to translate for them, and that they wanted to have a bit more bite. They wanted to have, and I fill in the blanks for them. And then through my training and what I desire to also bring to the character, I blend them. 70% me, 30% them. So that when it is completed and when they go in the editing room, it is something that I feel confident, that I don't have to worry about. Like, I'm not going to even, basically what I'm saying is I'm not going to even indulge them fully in giving them a couple, most of the takes that is what they want. And then the one take where it's like, okay, now I'm going to do what I think. Because at the end of the day, we have to remember, and this may sound like, whoa, she's a rabble rouser or whatever. But what it comes down to is they have hired you because they believe that you understand the character and you're the best person for the job. They've been casting this for several months. You have to own that for yourself and know that I am enough and I know this character, and this is a collaboration. It's the same thing how we tell one another, remind yourselves that your representation, your agents, your managers, whomever, work for you. And I'm not trying to in any way, to be very clear, disrespect directors or whoever would be, the powers that would be to tell you. But I think we do need to take onus of what we actually do bring to the table, and let it be a collaboration. I'm not saying it's all me. I have to, you're my eyes, because I'm not an actor who's going to look in the camera in between takes to see what I did. So you're my eyes. So it has to be a trust between the two of us in which we can come together. And if you do that, and if you make sure also that within the prep work that you have done prior to doing the scene and you knowing the spectrum and where this person could live, every take also use it as an opportunity to give different takes within this spectrum. So you have variety. I've always been told, make it hard on the editor. Make the editor's job really difficult. That they have so many options. They're like, let them be frustrated over you. You know what I mean? Like, trust me, it will work to your benefit. And that is how, especially as supporting actors, we have the ability to stand out or to have a voice, or to be recognized, or for them to cut it in a way where we're seen. Because it's like, yo, I can't deny this person. This person is on, they're connected to this character. It makes sense. Because at the end of the day, the director can feel what they feel in the moment. But when you go to the editing room, is what I did made sense? Like, you can be caught up in the moment. But when we really look at it now as a whole, in that moment of that scene, did the choice that I make be plausible as a possible option? If so, we're good to go. And that's how I've found that I've been able to most succinctly be able to navigate that world, so that I'm veering away from having to fall into, sometimes I think stereotypes is due to the lack of creativity and options. It's a clear way to be like, okay, you're the girl next door type. And then it's shorthand for all these details of who the person is. I'm more interested in the details, the list of attributes and personalities. And then within those, let's diversify them and make them multidimensional, so that we don't have, that then means these 3 things. And I'm going to only paint with these 3 paint brushes, and that's all you're going to see. I'm not interested in that. So in
Speaking of,
fact, you have more control, basically, as the actor.
yeah, and I want to end with this because you brought up Dolomite Is My Name. And aside from working with such incredible talent for that, of course, Ruthie Carter and Eddie Murphy,
Mm.
that story, you know, Rudy Ray Moore, his refusal to be put in a box or his inability to fit into certain views that the industry had of him,
Right.
and then the liberties he took to go on and express himself and the success that he had, because as you said earlier, when you strive for authenticity, people connect to it, and people did. I'm curious what you took away from working on his story that you've now carried with you.
I think the biggest thing that you take away from, or that I took away from it, is the idea that if you believe in it hard enough, it will happen. If you partner work and perseverance with, you know, your dreams and your passions, it will come together. Now, some will say like, his stuff wasn't that great. But what you're not understanding is a man believed in himself and others enough. And the key part is he surrounded himself around a support group of friends and didn't get selfish. And then, ostracize himself from everyone and be like, oh, okay, so it hit. So this is my thing now. Do you know what I mean? He was fair. He thought outside the lines. He was not afraid. He put his people first. He put the good storytelling in his regard first. He could have easily put a quote unquote typical leading woman who was probably skinnier and all these things. But he chose, hey, I see something in this woman. I believe in her. And to see just how much, similarly to Charisse and Lady Reed, when you just give a little, how much that makes a difference. Just by him seeing her in that bar. And she wasn't acting, she wasn't doing an audition, but he had an ability, I feel like, to see the truth of a person, the heart of a person. And he brought up something that the average person would have had no idea of knowing. That in fact, she was a backup singer. You know what I mean? Background singer. And I'm sure that's a part of her that she felt as though that was dead. And then someone reminds her. And then it's like, yo, you're a natural born entertainer. And I think that's why, circling to something else, like arts and the presence of art education is so crucial, because when people breathe life into these young individuals and just inspire them to be like, try it out. I see something in you. Go for it. You have no idea the trajectory that can take someone. So that, I would say overall, that was the biggest thing, and the reminder of keep going, don't stop, and that you are in control of your destiny. And sometimes I was told when I got out of school, because I used to be really hung up on stereotypes and, well, I don't want to play this. And that was a huge reason why I wanted to go to graduate school. I told them in graduate school, at the end of the interview, where they're like, well, what do you hope to get from us? And I said, I want to be able to have the tools to look the way that I do and be able to play Juliet and Romeo and Juliet, and you believe me. Due to the skill set and tools that you give me. Every single school laughed at me. Yale was the only one that was like, but of course, that is our curriculum. And so even with me being very new to theater, that was very important to me. And so throughout, types and stuff was very important. And so it was said to me by my teachers, they were like, listen, the only way that you are going to be able to combat this is to make a lane and make a road for yourself. There was no Meryl Streep before Meryl Streep, nor De Niro, nor Pacino, and the list goes on. So they didn't necessarily have anyone to quote unquote compare themselves to or to pattern their journey off of. And I feel like more and more now, diversity and uniqueness is so celebrated, but I didn't have anyone. And in many respects, I don't have anyone, and that's no disrespect to anyone else who feels as though I should, or they can list an actor or actress that they feel as though, oh, well, no, that person's your inspiration. I'm telling you, I don't have anyone, and that's not a bad thing. That just means I take from everyone like Charisse. It doesn't have to be in the frame of a curvy Black woman. That's only one person that I know of, Octavia Spencer, off the, you know what I mean? Off the back. I mean, so it's kind of like, why be subjected to one thing? And that's amazing, and she's phenomenal. And of course I take things from her, but it's like, stay in your uniqueness, because I can't do Octavia. Octavia can only do Octavia. So I have to stay true to who I am and my upbringing and my education and my life lessons and encounters that seasons me as the actor. And you have to stay true to that, because that, and then and only then do you really, I believe, really then are on the precipice of something quite great, because no one can manufacture that. Comedians, I think, do it all the time. Comedians, I think that's what one of the things that they're genius at. They know how to brand themselves of, love Eddie Murphy, but I'm not him. You know what I mean? This is my style. You know, and they give honor when honor is due. I think that's really cool about comedians. They always give honor to their, you know, their idols and legends in their mind for them. And yet it is very clear, because I think for them, in a way, they have to brand themselves perhaps more outwardly than we do as actors, but they get it. That I got to stay in my lane. Not even stay, but I have to flourish in my lane and do my thing. Yeah.
And that's why in Dolomite, when she watches herself on screen and she's just so emotional and says, yeah, I've never seen anyone that looked like me.
Yeah. That was, I mean, I had to, my publicist was like, Davine, don't say that. But I used to be like, I wasn't acting, but I guess what I meant to say is, I understand that to my core, and I meant that. And I was truly saying to Eddie Murphy, thank you. I don't know if Eddie had worked with, you know what I mean, my quote unquote type in a movie before. I've definitely seen Eddie Murphy with the who's who, you know what I mean, the who's who, these hot, sexy, what, you know, the industry at that time defined as hot and sexy, the Halle Berrys, you know what I mean, the Robin Givens, all these gorgeous, phenomenal women. And that meant a lot to me, that they were choosing very early in my career to make that move. You could have picked so many other people to do that part. So I meant that. And I did not think that we would see, or that I would see, him wanting to choose as his female counterpart to be someone that looks like me. Do you know what I mean? And where I'm not being made fun of. There's never once a joke cracked about my size, being saying that I'm ugly, being said, you know, being it said that I'm like one of the boys where my sex appeal is completely erased. It was quite the opposite. So it was, I've never seen that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've never seen someone exhibited in that way, and maybe I'm missing someone, but when it's come close, it's a joke, or is to be made fun of, or heavily commented on. And never once was her size ever commented on. And what was interesting is, which I thought was a really cool scene, is they chose to have Eddie's character talk about how it's the 4th of July scene, when he has a heart-to-heart with her, being like, why do I have to do this sex scene? I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel sexy, and da-da-da. And that's interesting, because usually it's the woman. Mm-hmm. And to have a Black man be vulnerable and to be able to speak about his feelings to another person, and a Black woman, it's a big deal. And I was like, oh, y'all get it. That means a lot. You guys get it. So yeah, I was very fortunate to be a part of that, of a program, of a project in which it's an alignment of my way of thinking and how I want to portray people and the stories that I want to tell. And it's encouraging that it's like, okay, I'm not crazy. You know what I mean? Like, okay, keep going. It's going somewhere. Other people see what you see too.
Well, thank you so, so much.
Thank you.